Here's a story about a guy who spent his entire life being the family's background character. Not invited to the weddings. Talked about at holiday dinners like he wasn't in the room. Publicly mocked at a housewarming he drove an hour to attend with a gift. He never exploded. Never made a scene. Just quietly noted every single thing year after year until the day he got married and decided not to invite any of them. And what they did next, the Facebook meltdown, the voicemails, the showing up at his door trying to force their way inside, is why you need to hear this. This is Aaron's story. My family excluded me from both siblings' weddings for years. So when I got married, I returned the favor, and they showed up trying to break down my door. People always act like cutting off your family is this massive, dramatic thing. Some screaming match at Thanksgiving, plates flying, someone crying in a driveway while the neighbors watch from their windows. Mine wasn't like that. It was quieter, more like a slow accumulation of being told, in 100 small ways over 30-some years, that I wasn't really part of the group. Until one day, the math just stopped adding up and I walked away. My name's Aaron. I'm 31. I've been married just over a year to the best person I've ever met. I have zero contact with my biological family, my parents, my brother Mike, my sister Jenna. Zero. Not because of one big moment. Because of about 2 decades of small ones that nobody ever seemed to think mattered. Growing up, I was the odd one out. Not in a rebellious way, not a troublemaker, just genuinely different from everyone else in my house. Mike played every sport going, had more friends than he could keep track of, and could walk into any room and immediately figure out how to belong in it. Jenna was the same. Sharp, socially fluent, popular in that easy way that looks like no effort at all. My parents understood them. They loved me the way people love something they can't fully figure out, which is to say, from a distance, with not a lot of sustained attention. I was the kid who read everything I could get my hands on. Taught myself chess from a library book in the 4th grade. Had opinions about ancient Rome at dinner, and genuinely could not understand why nobody else wanted to talk about it. My dad used to look at me sometimes like I was a device he couldn't find the manual for. Mom was warmer but always more comfortable when the conversation shifted back to Mike's stats or Jenna's social drama. I wasn't hostile about any of it, honestly. I just got used to taking up less space. There was one Saturday when I was around 9, I'd won a regional chess tournament, first place, little plastic trophy and everything, and I came home expecting something. I don't even know what. Just something. Dad looked up from the TV, said, "That's good," and went back to the game. Mom was on the phone. Mike was at practice. I put the trophy on my desk, and that was that. I still have it somewhere in a box. I don't know why I never threw it out. The exclusion started small at first. Birthday parties where my invite apparently got lost. Family outings where someone forgot to loop me in until the car was already packed and leaving. I told myself these were accidents for a long time. I was good at telling myself things. But then came the weddings. Jenna's was first. I was 22. She sat me down a month before with this very deliberate, carefully rehearsed energy about her. The kind that meant she'd thought about what she was going to say and was delivering it like a prepared statement. Big smile that didn't reach her eyes. She explained calmly that her wedding was going to be very normal, and she just didn't think it was really my scene. She said she thought I'd be uncomfortable there, surrounded by a lot of people I didn't know. She hugged me after like she was doing me a solid, said she'd send pictures. I sat there just blinking, trying to process whether this was actually happening or whether I was somehow misunderstanding something. I wasn't. She sent a few blurry photos a week after the wedding, in a group text she'd apparently forgotten to remove me from. I could make out the head table in one of them. When I brought it up with my parents, Dad barely looked up from whatever he was reading. She's the bride, she gets to choose. Mom said I probably would have been miserable anyway, surrounded by all those people I didn't know. As if I hadn't grown up with half the guest list. As if I wasn't family. I didn't fight it. I didn't even really cry, though I couldn't eat much for a few days after. Just had this lump in my throat that wouldn't clear. Wait. Hold on. For the listeners, this is me, the host, not Aaron. I need you to hear what just happened here. She didn't just exclude him. She explained it to him, with a smile. Like she was doing him a favor by uninviting him from his own sister's wedding. That's not cruelty. That's cruelty with customer service energy and a pamphlet. She handed the man a rejection letter with a ribbon on it, and both parents just nodded along like that was completely normal. This family voted him off the island before he even knew there was a vote. Anyway, Mike's wedding is next, and somehow it's worse. Mike's wedding was 2 years later, and this time they didn't even bother pretending. I found out about it through a Facebook post, a blurry, candid shot of my entire family dressed up and laughing around a banquet table. The caption said something like, "Family is everything. No call, no text, not even the decency of a bad excuse. Just a public reminder, posted for whoever happened to scroll by, that I wasn't part of the club. I was at my kitchen table eating leftover rice when I saw it. I just sat there staring at the screen for a long time, not really sure what I was waiting for. Kept scrolling through the photos, everyone there, everyone smiling, everyone looking like exactly the kind of family that shows up in frame shops. And the only thing I kept thinking was how genuinely easy it would have been to just text me. That's all it would have taken. One text, nothing came. I closed the app, finished my dinner, and went to bed. I should have been done then. Most people would have been done then. But hope sticks around longer than it has any right to when you've been holding on to it since you were a kid. I kept trying. Holidays, birthdays, random check-ins. Sometimes they'd respond, sometimes not. When they did, there was always this thin layer of politeness stretched over total disinterest, asking about work in a tone that made it clear they were just filling the silence, commenting on how quiet my life seemed like that was some kind of character flaw. There was a Thanksgiving somewhere in the middle of all this. I'm thinking maybe 4 years after Mike's wedding, where I actually drove 2 hours to be there. First time I'd been at the full family table in a while. Mom had done this whole spread, turkey and everything, and for about the first 20 minutes I let myself think maybe things were different. And then I watched the way the conversation just naturally organized itself around Mike and Jenna. Their jobs, their lives, their stories. I sat at the end of the table and ate my turkey, and answered the 2 questions directed at me, and drove home in the dark feeling absolutely stupid for having thought this time would be any different. I didn't go back for the next 2 years. Every visit felt like being a guest at a party you weren't actually invited to. Technically present, not really there. The housewarming was what finally finished it. Mike had bought a new place, maybe a year before my wedding, and threw a party. And in what I can only describe as a moment of supreme optimism, I decided to go. Drove an hour each way. Brought a gift card. Wore a decent shirt. Told myself this was the time things would be different. I had told myself this before. Several times. At some point, that stops being optimism. Mike opened the door and looked genuinely surprised. Not happy surprised. Just surprised. Like the possibility hadn't occurred to him. He took my gift card like he wasn't sure what to do with it, mumbled something about how Mom had mentioned I probably wouldn't show, and waved me in. The house was packed. Neighbors, cousins, people from the neighborhood I'd grown up in. Music going, food out, easy laughter everywhere. The kind of atmosphere that comes naturally to people who belong. I tried to get into a few conversations, got polite smiles, and people turning back to whoever they were actually there for. I ended up near the back of the yard at some point, standing by myself with a soda, watching a group of people I'd known my entire life have a good time that didn't include me in it. And then Jenna, who'd been holding court all night and was clearly riding the room's energy, loud, a little too animated, the version of herself she became when she wanted everyone looking at her, called out across the yard, loud enough to cut right through the conversation. "Well, at least Aaron didn't ruin anything today. Must be a new record." The table laughed. Not a polite chuckle, an actual laugh. I froze. My hand tightened around the plastic cup. I stood there waiting for something, any signal from anyone that this wasn't okay. A look, an awkward silence. Anything. Nothing came. The laughter faded, the conversation moved on, and everyone went back to what they were doing like I wasn't standing right there. I left about 10 minutes later. Didn't announce it, didn't say goodbye, just slipped out through the side gate while they were occupied. Drove home with the radio off. And when I got inside, I sat down at my kitchen table for a few minutes, thought about it, and then deleted the family group chat from my phone. No message, no explanation, just gone. That was it. That was the whole thing. Hold on. For the listeners, this is the host, not Aaron. So she made a public joke at his expense at a party he drove an hour to attend with a gift in his hand. She got a laugh. He got a silent drive home. You know what that is? That's a deleted scene from The Office where the writers went, "Too mean, cut it." Except nobody cut it. Nobody looked guilty. The parents said nothing. This family has the emotional range of a DMV waiting room. But the best part? He didn't make a scene, just left. Quietly deleted the group chat and drove home. Rest in peace, group chat. About 4 months after the housewarming, I met Lisa. She worked in the same building as a colleague of mine. I do project coordination remotely now, but used to go in twice a week. And a mutual friend put together a small group dinner that she happened to be at. I had a book sticking out of my jacket pocket, the way I always did. She noticed and asked what it was about. Not in a polite way, in a genuinely curious way, like she actually wanted to know. I told her. She asked a follow-up question, then another one. That was pretty much it for me. We dated for about 8 months. She was warm in a way I hadn't really been around much growing up. Not performative warmth, just actually interested. In me. In the random historical facts I couldn't stop bringing up. In the bad puns I made compulsively. In whatever I'd been reading that week. She didn't make me feel like I was taking up too much space. She made me feel like I was taking up exactly the right amount. There was this one evening, maybe 3 months in, where we were at her place and I just started talking. Really talking. Not the polished version I usually gave people, but the actual version. About growing up, about the weddings, about the housewarming, about all of it. And she listened. Not the way people listen when they're waiting for you to finish. The way people listen when they actually want to understand. She didn't try to fix it or explain it away or tell me my family probably meant well. She just said, "That's a lot to carry," and meant it. I don't know if she knew what that did for me. She probably did. I proposed over dinner at a restaurant she'd mentioned once, in passing, 4 months earlier. She cried a little when she realized I'd been holding on to that detail, which was honestly the part that got me, because I'd been holding it together fine up until that moment. She said yes before I'd even finished the sentence. We started planning almost immediately. Both of us wanted small, close friends, chosen people, nothing performative. A couple dozen guests max. Just the people who'd actually shown up. One evening, we were going through the guest list at the kitchen table with takeout containers pushed to the side, and Lisa paused and asked about my family, whether I wanted to invite them. I sat with that for a while. I thought about it for real. Thought about how weddings are supposed to be these milestone moments where people set things aside. How maybe this was the kind of thing that could change the dynamic. How maybe they'd show up different if I gave them the chance. And then I thought about Jenna's face when she told me her wedding wasn't my scene. The Facebook post. Mike's doorbell expression. The housewarming. 20 plus years of being the punchline or the afterthought. Take your pick. I said no. My voice was steady when I said it. No qualification, no hedging. Just no. Lisa nodded. She said she wanted the day to be about the people who actually showed up for us. Not about managing everyone else's feelings. We moved on to centerpieces. Word got out anyway. Small towns always have loud mouths. And I've never figured out how to change that. About a week after invitations went out, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Not congratulations. Not, "We heard you're getting married, that's wonderful." Just, "Heard you're getting married. When are we getting our invites?" An assumption. Not even phrased as a question. Just a flat expectation that they'd be included no matter how they'd treated me for the last decade. I stared at the message for probably 2 full minutes. Then I typed back, "There's no invitation." That was all it took. Within the hour, the family group chat I'd deleted months ago had somehow reconstituted itself on my phone, fully loaded. Mom, Dad, Mike, Jenna, all at once, all overlapping. Guilt trips, accusations, a revolving door of "how could you," and "after everything we've done." Jenna posted a vague status on Facebook within the day. Funny how some people forget where they come from. Hope they enjoy their little party without real family. Mike texted me directly to say I was being immature and pathetic. Dad left a voicemail that was mostly heavy sighing and gruff lines about ingratitude. I read most of them. Put my phone face down and helped Lisa pick out centerpieces. Okay, stop. This is me, the host. I need you to picture this. This man is sitting at a table making seating charts while his family is out on the internet publicly imploding about how he forgot where he came from. Not realizing that random strangers, people who don't know any of them, are reading these posts and immediately going, "Wait, didn't you exclude him from your weddings?" The comments doing his work for him. He didn't respond to a single thing. The internet cross-examined them for free. That's not karma. That's karma with a Wi-Fi connection and a comment section. Anyway, the wedding day is next, and it went exactly as planned. The day of the wedding was, this is going to sound corny, but it was genuinely perfect. We'd rented a renovated farmhouse event space outside of town, one of those places with exposed beams and string lights and an outdoor ceremony area with a view of open fields. 41 people there. Every single one of them had chosen to be there, which sounds like a small thing until you've spent your whole life being in rooms full of people who didn't choose you. Lisa's dad walked her down the aisle and looked like he was barely keeping it together, which made Lisa laugh a little, which made me laugh, which made the photographer visibly thrilled. Lisa walked down the aisle in this dress she'd picked out with her mom and her best friend, and she was smiling that full-face smile she has where you see it in her eyes before you even see her mouth. And I was already a mess by the time she reached me. She found that hilarious, whispered, "You're crying already," just before we started the vows, which made it worse. Worth it. We said our vows. We danced. Our buddy Greg gave a toast that was embarrassingly sincere and made at least 6 people cry. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't one of them. The cake was slightly lopsided because the baker we'd booked had a last-minute family emergency and their cousin filled in. The playlist glitched twice. One of the neighbor kids who'd come as someone's +1 definitely spilled something on the dance floor. It was completely, entirely perfect. Somewhere around the middle of the reception, I slipped away from the dance floor for a few minutes and stood at the edge of the field watching everything. Watching my people, laughing, dancing, talking loudly over each other. Being there not because they had to, but because they wanted to. I thought about how much energy I'd spent over the years trying to earn a seat at a table I'd been born at. And I thought about how none of those people in that field had ever made me feel like I needed to earn anything. The real surprise came right after the ceremony. My old neighbor, Mr. Halverson, pulled me aside, mid-70s, wiry, the kind of man who always looks like he's 3 steps ahead of whatever's happening and enormously pleased about it. He had this grin on his face like he'd been sitting on something all night, said, "Aaron, you're going to want to see this," and pulled out his phone. He showed me what was happening on Facebook in real time. A series of posts. Jenna, then Mike, then Mom. Status after status about how selfish I was, how family means forgiveness, how blood is blood, how I'd chosen some party over my real people. Posted while I was getting married, while Lisa was laughing with her bridesmaids, while our guests were dancing. Jenna's, "Can't believe my own brother would do this after everything our family has done for him." Some people just don't understand what family means. A stranger had already commented, "Didn't you leave him out of your wedding, though?" No reply from Jenna, just defensive likes from her friends. Mike's, "Guess Aaron forgot who helped raise him. Maybe he'll remember someday when he's all alone." Same thing. A comment from someone who apparently knew the story. "You didn't invite him to yours either. Sounds like karma." Mom's was a blurry old family photo from years back with the caption, "Some people forget who loved them first." I stood there reading all of it while Mr. Halverson barely contained himself next to me, and I felt nothing. Not angry, not sad. Just this very clear, quiet understanding that these people had missed every version of me that mattered. Not just the wedding. All of it. Lisa appeared beside me and slipped her hand into mine. I looked at her. Looked at the 41 people behind her who were there because they wanted to be. And I thought, yeah, this is it. This is exactly it. Pause. For those listening, this is the host. I need to note something about what kind of person shows up with a casserole dish, expecting that to be the key. He won't return my calls. Better make a lasagna. That's not a peace offering. That's a hostage negotiation prop. Meanwhile, Aaron's behind his window watching all 4 of them like they're auditioning for a show nobody greenlit. And here's the kicker. When it clearly wasn't working, she set the casserole on the porch railing. Didn't hand it to anyone. Just set it down and crossed her arms. She had nowhere to go with it. That image is doing something to me. The morning after our wedding, I woke up to my phone buzzing off the nightstand. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, dozens of them. For about 2 seconds, half asleep, I thought maybe someone had something genuine to say. That maybe some version of "I'm sorry" existed somewhere in that stack of notifications. They did not. Mom's voicemail, voice tight and controlled in that specific register she used when she was most furious. Aaron, you need to call me back. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're going to regret this. No one will ever love you the way we do. Jenna's, congrats on your sad little party. Hope it was worth it. Mike's was just a long exhale followed by, you'll come crawling back. You always do. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to them one after another while Lisa slept. And the strange thing was, none of it landed. Not even a little. It all sounded like noise from a long way away. I blocked every number, deleted every message, put the phone down, and went and made coffee. Then it was a Thursday. Wait, I think it was Wednesday, actually. It was midweek, doesn't matter, when there was a knock at the door. Not a regular knock. The kind that communicates from the first second that whoever is on the other side doesn't particularly believe in the concept of no. Lisa froze in the kitchen, spatula in the air. I crossed to the door and looked through the peephole. All four of them. Mom with a casserole dish held in front of her like some kind of offering. Dad just behind her, jaw set, arms crossed. Jenna with sunglasses on, shielding herself from whatever she expected to happen. Mike on his phone, scrolling, barely bothering to appear invested. I didn't open the door. I cracked the window. Mom's voice came through sweet and slightly too loud. That performance of warmth she deployed when she was actually furious underneath it. Hi, sweetheart. We thought we'd come by. Just to talk. As a family. I said calmly. No thanks. We're busy. There was a pause. Dad stepped forward. Aaron, enough of this. We're not leaving until you come out here and talk to us. Lisa appeared behind me, her hand finding mine. She asked quietly if they were just going to leave. I told her no. Mom's smile faltered. She set the casserole dish down on the porch railing with a loud clunk, crossed her arms and shifted modes. Said this wasn't me. Said I was being cold, that I was letting someone poison me against my own blood. Then Jenna pulled her sunglasses down, just enough to direct a look through the window directly at Lisa. I opened the window a little wider. I looked at Jenna and said, nobody poisoned me. You did that all on your own. The smile dropped completely off her face. Mike finally looked up from his phone, which was saying something. He told me to grow up. Said I was throwing away my real family over some hurt feelings. Lisa tightened her grip on my hand. I kept my voice even and said what I needed to say. That they hadn't wanted me at the weddings, hadn't wanted me at the holidays, hadn't wanted me around when it actually mattered. So they didn't get to show up at my door when it was convenient for them. They made their choice a long time ago. I'd made mine. Mom said I'd regret it. I told her I already had everything I needed, and I closed the window. For a moment, there was stunned silence outside. Then the banging started, fists against the door, voices raised. Something cracked against the frame. I don't know if they'd tried the handle or what, but it wasn't just knocking anymore. It was force. Lisa stepped back, pulling me with her toward the kitchen. She asked if we should call the police. I said yes. Definitely yes. She grabbed her phone and got behind the counter. I stayed where I was, between her and the door, while Mike's voice came through clear from outside, shouting that I'd end up alone, that nobody else would put up with me once Lisa figured out what I actually was. Mom cycling through her repertoire, Dad going deep and loud the way he used to when he wanted a room to go still. I didn't say anything back, just stood there, breathing slow. And then, the most satisfying sound I've ever heard in my life. Sirens. The banging stopped immediately. I crossed to the window and watched as Mom snatched the casserole off the railing like she could somehow salvage the scene if she was just holding it again. Dad told Mike and Jenna to act normal. They tried to look like they'd just been standing there having a casual conversation on someone's porch. 2 officers pulled up. I stepped outside with my hands visible. Lisa came out a minute later and stood next to me, solid and calm. Mom rushed forward before anyone could say a word and launched into her version. That I was their son, that I'd been brainwashed, that they were just trying to talk. All of it delivered with the trembling voice she used when she wanted to look like the victim. Dad leaned in with the, "We have a right to see him" angle. One of the officers explained, with the patience of someone who'd had this exact conversation 50 times before, that I was an adult, they had no legal right to enter without permission, and if they continued, they could be charged. And then I said the line that made the whole porch go completely quiet. I want to press charges for trespassing and attempted forced entry, and I want to file for a restraining order. Mom's mouth fell open. Dad went red. Jenna's sunglasses slipped. Mike actually took a step back. They got a formal warning on the spot. If they showed up again, they'd be arrested. I filed the paperwork that afternoon. The door, officially, slammed shut. Yo, timeout. This is me, not Aaron. Let me just appreciate what this man did here. Dad said, "We're not leaving." Aaron called the police. Dad said, "You'll regret this." Aaron filed the paperwork. Mom said, "No one will ever love you the way we do." Aaron is now legally protected from all of them. 3 threats, 0 outcomes. This man didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't have a single breakdown. He just kept walking forward until the noise completely faded out behind him. That's not cold, that's earned. Some people call that healing. Aaron calls it Tuesday. Final update. The silence afterward was genuinely strange. After weeks of constant noise, calls at midnight, texts at all hours, the Facebook campaigns, it just stopped. Like someone cut the power. No more guilt trips, no more voicemails, no more passive-aggressive captions on old photos. Just nothing. I won't pretend that nothing left some kind of hollow space. It did. Holidays were hard for a while, seeing other families easy and comfortable together in a way that came naturally to them, knowing I'd never really had that version of things. There was a quiet ache that showed up sometimes when everything else went still. I'd been chasing something for 30-something years, and I'd finally stopped chasing. And there's a specific kind of sadness that comes with that, even when stopping was the right call. But it filled in, slowly, with better things. Lisa's parents took me in without making it a thing, called me their second son, remembered what I'd mentioned wanting for my birthday 3 weeks before my birthday. The kind of people who just genuinely welcomed me, no performance required. I had dinner at their place one Sunday in the first few months after the restraining order, just a regular family Sunday dinner, nothing special on the calendar, and her dad asked me something about a project I'd mentioned at the last visit, and I realized he'd been paying attention, storing it, bringing it back up because he actually cared. I didn't say anything about how that landed, but it landed. My coworkers threw us a post-honeymoon party with a cake that said, "Welcome to your real family," which, yeah, I definitely didn't hold it together for that one, and I'm fine with that. Neighbors who'd heard about the restraining order dropped off food and cards, not because they pitied us, but because they respected what we'd done. Piece by piece, the life I'd wanted since I was the kid who played chess alone and came home to a "that's good" and a turned back, it came together. About 6 months after the wedding, Lisa and I had people over for a backyard barbecue. Nothing big. Close friends, a few neighbors, good food. At one point, I stepped back from it all and just watched for a minute. Lisa laughing with her best friend over the burgers she'd insisted on grilling herself, which were genuinely not good. She knows it. She just likes doing it. Our neighbors' kids chasing each other across the yard with water guns. Greg attempting to explain fantasy football to someone who had absolutely no interest and was too polite to say so. Our friend from down the street who showed up 20 minutes late carrying a bag of chips and a wide smile like that counted as bringing something. A few people I'd met through work who'd shown up because they wanted to, not because they had to. I stood there with a cold drink in my hand, and I thought about every version of what my family had told me over the years. That I'd regret it, that I'd end up alone, that no one else would put up with me, that blood is blood and you don't walk away from blood. They missed my wedding. They missed every good day that came after it. They missed the barbecue and the burned burgers and the water guns and Greg's terrible fantasy football pitch and all the ordinary stuff that makes up a life. All of it, because they couldn't be bothered to treat me like I belonged when it would have cost them absolutely nothing. And standing there watching my people, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe ever, if I'm being honest. Free. Completely. Finally. No asterisk free. I still wonder sometimes whether they ever actually figured out what they lost. Whether any of them sat with it long enough to understand the full weight of what they gave up? Probably not. Some questions just don't have clean answers, and I've made my peace with that. But I know what I have, and none of them get any of it. Not a single piece of it. So, look, Aaron spent 31 years being the family's punchline. The one who wouldn't enjoy it anyway. The one who probably wouldn't show. He drove an hour to that housewarming with a gift and got publicly mocked while everyone laughed. When he finally stopped playing along, they escalated to showing up at his door trying to force their way in, then had the nerve to call him the problem. They never planned for the version of him that was completely, quietly done. Not angry, just done. There's a difference. Drop your take in the comments. Would you have cut contact earlier? And subscribe, because we drop new stories every day.